Texas A&M continues to be at the top of the SEC recruiting rankings, but there are some unusual members at the top of the SEC. Let's talk about why that is.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I am Brian Smith, and on tonight's show, we're going to have chat questions across college football. But a big thing we're going to dig into will be the Georgia football schedule. It's unique. It's not one that is completely over the top. Some SEC schedules can certainly be that way, but the Dawgs will have to find a way to navigate, especially the first 7 games. We're also going to discuss who's next in recruiting, some of the big storylines of what's going on. There are guys that are committing. There's some other ones that are not. We'll get into that. But to start, SEC recruiting rankings. At the top, it's not completely shocking. A&M's really good. LSU's in there now. They've made their little run. Finally, Texas is up there. Florida, first-year coach John Summer. Some of these teams aren't shocking. But I want you to look when I put this up on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube live or later, and I'll read it off for those audio listeners, Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else. What seems odd to you about this list? Let's take a first look, and I'll go through it again as I mentioned. A&M's number 1. Oklahoma was originally number 1 this year. They were the first team to 20. You got the Gators. You got the Longhorns. You got the LSU Tigers. That's your top 5. But Auburn is 6. Okay. They sometimes dip in there. They're a team that's kind of hard to predict. They've had a really nice class. They had a really good week. They've had several commitments in the last week, including Deshaun Hall out of Prattville. Georgia is 7th. That's lower than normal. They're still battling for some kids. I have some comments about Georgia. And then Kentucky at number 8. So let's start right there and just think about that list for a second. Which school is not in there that it's just an automatic? Of course, that's the Alabama Crimson Tide. So now, let's jump into section 2 of this for those of you on YouTube. And again, I'll read this off for those of you that are listening on audio. Number 9 is Missouri. 10 would be Ole Miss, and congrats on getting Mitchell Turner today. We'll talk about him a little bit more later in the show. Tennessee Vols at 11. Vanderbilt at 12. Arkansas, 13th. Mississippi State, 14th. South Carolina, 15th. And Alabama at 16th. And for the record, this would be the Rivals recruiting rankings. Yes, I said Alabama 16th, dead last. Now, they just got a commitment, and I did this, about 3-4 hours ago. So maybe they're ahead of South Carolina now. It's pretty close. But they're towards the bottom. It's just weird to see Alabama there. So let me define a couple of things of what I've heard. And this has been kind of going on. I've been talking about this for 6 weeks. A lot of other people have kind of caught on to it. Alabama is going to have a smaller class. That's well documented. They've had 2 big classes in a row. However, it's not the size of the class. It's where are the elite players? They just got an offensive lineman to commit. That's good news if you're an Alabama fan. But where are the elite offensive linemen? Where are the elite defensive linemen? The kid that committed, Stafford Willis out of Arab, Alabama, big kid, 6'5", 280. I'm sure he'll be a good player at Alabama. But that's their first lineman to commit on the offensive side of the ball. That's weird. And Alabama doesn't have a big class. So, okay, it's easier to pick it apart. But they had 2 quarterbacks. Even though they throw the ball around, they don't have any receivers yet. Although I think they're going to get Osani Gales. That's my prediction. We'll see what happens. And they just don't have a balanced group. It's very weird. But the biggest thing, and again, I talked about this the other day. I'm going to reiterate it today. Go find the article. It's by Rivals. There was an article regarding Kalen DeBoer, and he's quoted in there. You can read between the lines what he's saying, and it was very well worded by Mr. DeBoer, but they need more money. That's the concern. Smaller class is one thing, but they still aren't getting the level of recruit they normally do. They've gotten a couple of recent commits. They're good players, but these aren't the normal Alabama kind of guys. So anyway, I think it's pretty fascinating. So let's go back to the first group. A&M is a program that has a lot of money to throw around. They've got arguably the best staff in the country in terms of top recruiters on one staff. You could definitely argue that. Is it a situation where A&M is going to fall off anytime soon? Probably not. Probably not. D-line coach, receiver coach, O-line coach, like they have guys on that staff that really get after it. I'm not saying it's the end-all be-all, but having relationships is the starting point for every recruiting class, and then NIL gets you over the top. If you're not in the game, NIL is not relevant. You have to earn the keep of the players in question. So to that end, I think that A&M has done a really, really good job. And I also think that they're probably going to do a really good job for a long time. So I don't think this is something to sneeze at. Not saying they'll be number one every year, but I think seeing them in the top 10 is going to be consistently there. And I also think they're going to do a consistent job of balanced classes. Jimbo's class at, what was it, 2021 or 2022? That class was too top heavy, like D-line. It wasn't balanced. This group is. And here's the other thing. According to On3 or Rivals, if you will, 15 of their 23 players are blue chips, 5 of which, by their rankings, are 5 stars. That's pretty impressive. Oklahoma has 2 5 stars. 12 of their 25 would be blue chips. They've got some really good guys in the trenches, some local kids. They've done a great job. Florida, 16 blue chips out of 24, and they have an incredible balanced class in terms of guys everywhere that have size, that have length. They've done the right things. Texas had a great week. They've just added a couple guys. Kyron Brown, I'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute. He was arguably their lowest ranked recruit in the last week, and they've got dudes. Tyler Alexander out of South Florida. They've added some other guys locally. They still are trending for some teams or some players. They got 2 5 stars. They might have a couple more before this is all done. 12 of their 17 are blue chips. Ohio State and other teams they're competing with, like these schools, they're as good or better. Those programs I just mentioned, they're as good or better than anybody in the country. And you still haven't gotten to some of the mainstays that you think about in the SEC. LSU's next. They've got 10 of their 14 are blue chips. They've been patient. Now they're starting to reel in some of the local kids. That's a great group. Auburn has killed it in the last week. Deshaun Hall, a kid I know well, committed. Big receiver out of Prattville, 6'5" kid, really, really talented. Really good hooper, too. I'm curious to see what happens with that class long-term. They got a lot of potential guys, and we'll see what they do with the portal combination, but Auburn's got a good group. Georgia's very similar to what Auburn did. They got a couple of 5-star guys, but their class is based on balance, potential. They're trying to develop guys, not trying to overpay up front, but they've still got a top 15 group. It's not quite what Kirby's used to having, and I thought they would be better, but they're not trying to overpay for freshmen. So that's one thing to kind of take in consideration with what the Dawgs are trying to do with their class. Then you got Ole Miss. By the way, Mitchell Turner, I said I'd mention him. I'll go ahead and throw this out there. Elite prospect, defensive lineman out of Louisville, Mississippi. Spelled like Louisville, but it's allegedly pronounced Louisville. 6'3", 270. He can go. Elite player. They got him over Alabama and pretty much every other program in the SEC. Great pickup for that staff. And maybe a guy that can play early, like a freshman. Kentucky, top 25 class for the Wildcats. That's kind of surprising. They've got 5 guys that are blue chips. That's not normal for the Wildcats. Congrats to the folks in Lexington. Missouri, they've done more with less for quite a while. Give Drink and his staff credit. They've done a really good job. The size up front has been a part of it. They're a physical football team. They find the right fits. They just got another good running back, a local kid from St. Louis that they went out and flipped from Auburn. I think this is a team that's not going away either. So just overall, kind of looking at the rankings and talking about some of these teams, it's really impressive what we've got. When we come back, we're going to talk about the latest commits. Who's next? What are some of the trends? There's a big day coming up on July 1st for a bunch of commitments. We're going to get you all caught up on all things recruiting right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or just building a winning team to help you get your business rolling, or maybe to rebrand it. Whatever it may be, you've got to have the people that connect to drive your business and your money forward. To that end, I look at business from a lot of different perspectives, but more and more in today's society, you have to have people that see eye to eye on how to get it done, or even if they don't, they can find a way to make it work. Indeed is trying to find people that fit your organization so you can make more money, and that's where this all comes to. Spend less time searching and more time with people that give you less stress, less problems, and more results when you interview them and bring them in and make you money. You need to find the right person to cut through the chaos, and that is where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. You can get a $75 sponsored job credit with Indeed to get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, Indeed.com/podcast. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked on the Portal. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right. Let's make sure that we are also checking out Locked on the Portal's Everydayer Club. It's an opportunity for you to get all your podcasts without ads if you take them on the go, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Podbean, or wherever it is. Check out Locked on the Portal with everything that you can get on the go with no ads. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the latest. I want to get this out of the way, and I think it's smart on their part. Rivals is having a big blowout. This is something that came up here in the last day or so on July 1st. They're having, at least now this number could change, but around 10 players commit live on that day. Why? Well, a lot of the kids all commit, boom, 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 during this week. And I'm like, why aren't there as many commitments? Like, this is supposed to be the biggest week of the entire year. It seems a little slow. Well, that answers it. July 1st, next week, we're going to see a whole different show. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, if they're going to do a bunch of backstories and videos with them, but it's just going to be going to these announcements all over the place. What else they do with rankings and everything, I don't know. This is the first time it's happened, but I think it's pretty fascinating, and I'm glad. It'll be something to watch. It'll be entertaining. We'll have an opportunity to get a better idea of not only who's committing where, but why. And to that end, before I go down, I got a little bit of a list that I want to talk about. Then I'll just go through some of the commitments in general from today, as I always do each and every day here on Locked on the Portal's live show. I want to discuss a little bit about the NIL stuff that I've heard. From talking to a couple other hosts around the network, I was just with Jay Stevens, Locked on Buckeyes. Even Ohio State is kind of picking their way through of when to spend money and when not to. Whatever school you read for, where do you think you are? Just asking this open anyway. There's no directive. It's just curiosity. Answer in the chat or answer down below if you're watching this podcast later, YouTube, what have you. Where do you think this is going? Because if you really look at NIL, it's going up and up, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again tonight. I think A&M will be the first $100 million roster. It won't be on the books that way, but it will be, I think, within 2 years. And if your team is not willing to go up, like, what will your expectations be, and will you follow the team as closely? Because it's going to be harder to beat those teams. They got better players, and they're spending way more than you to retain them. That's tough. Just want your thoughts on that. Now let's dive into some of the commitments and everything that's going on and just have a little bit of fun here. Let's see. Where's the beginning spot that I want to go with? Just because I'm a fan of the program in general, all the way back to the Marshall Faulk days. I'll start with San Diego State. They pick up Tyson Seidman at a Sierra Canyon, really good program out in California, 6'4", 315-pound lineman. Caleb Hall out of Syracuse, Utah. That's a wild place to get a player from. That's a young man that is going to be playing for the Utes. That's a good pickup for them, keeping the kid in state. James Alosio, offensive tackle, 6'4", 305, out of Snow Junior College in the state of Utah. He's headed down to play for Arizona in Tucson. The Texas Longhorns, Tyler Alexander, big pickup for the Horns. They get a kid out of Palm Beach Central, interior defensive lineman that's a run stuffer. You could never have enough of those. Texas definitely likes big guys, and they have done a great job recruiting D tackles the last few years. Deshaun Holt, mentioned him a few minutes ago, 6'5", 200 pounds, give or take. I think by the time he enrolls, he might be 210 or more. He's a kid that's just starting to grow into his body. He might be a little under 200, maybe 190 now, but he'll be 200 or more by the time he gets to Auburn. Plays at Prattville. He's a hooper. He's going to be giving that up. That'll help him add some more weight. I think Auburn's getting a really good football player. Tyrone Howard Jr. out of St. John Newman down at Naples, Florida, going all the way north. to Champaign, Illinois to play for the Fighting Illini. Stanford picks up A.J. McBean. J. Sarah High School, Gardena, California, running back, 5'11", 210 pounds. He will be a part of the Cardinal. Colorado, flip of the day. Did not see this one coming. Ben Jarvius Shoemaker out of Choctaw County. He's going to Colorado. Choctaw County is in Mississippi. He was committed to Ole Miss. And, yes, the infamous, I'm shutting it down. That was like yesterday is what I'm told. Yet he flips to Colorado today. Wow, that is wild. Alex Fontenot, wide receiver, 6'2", 190 out of Alexandria, Louisiana, going all the way out to the D.C. area, playing for the Maryland Terrapins. Bradway Stamper at a University School of Jackson in Jackson, Tennessee. Big corner, 6'3", 190 pounds, going to stay home basically, about an hour or so away, and play for Memphis. South Carolina gets James Ross at a Ridgeview in Columbia, South Carolina, so his hometown, 6'5", 290 pounds. He will play for the Gamecocks. Tyler Younger, young man out of Greater Atlanta Christian, 6'4", 220 pounds. He's going to go play for the Tide. Grant Gonzalez out of Waxahachie, Texas, offensive tackle, 6'5", 300, going to play for North Texas. Cedric Simmons out of Selma, Alabama. He is going to play for Auburn. Arkansas picks up Mahonry Maeva. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. Garden City Community College out in Kansas, 6'4", 315. He's going to play for the Razorbacks. Notre Dame picks up reclass Seagun Alexander out of Raven Gap, defensive lineman from Northern Georgia. Now he's originally from Canada, 6'2", 6'3", 290 pounds. That's a big boy. He's a really good pass rusher for his size. I think he's a five-star player. The only reason he's ranked so low, in my opinion, is the reclass, and there's politics with that too. But I think that kid's ranking is going to go way up. Big-time player. Kyron Brown, this is another kid that I think is underrated. Going to Texas. He's from the Panhandle of Texas. They don't get the same exposure. His film is really, really good. Big pickup, as far as I'm concerned, for Texas. This kid makes guys miss in space. He's got great hands. Kyron Brown is really, really good. Kendon Bauer out of Wingamore in Frederick, Maryland. Offensive tackle, 6'6". Man, he's a big kid, 325 pounds. He will stay home for the Terrapins. Arizona gets Ty Johnson at a Crean Lutheran, Irvine, California. Wide receiver, 6'2", 205 pounds. Again, he will be playing for the Arizona Wildcats. Speaking of Wildcats, Kansas State picks up Oran Baker Jr., East St. Louis, Illinois. Wide receiver, 5'10", 172 pounds. Athlete Damari Hall out of Crean Lutheran, also another kid out there. Athlete's going 5'10", 165. He's going down to North Texas. And again, for North Texas, Jyrell Smith out of North Crowley, a kid local, running back, 5'8", 190 pounds. He's going to stay local as well. Next up on the list, we've got one more guy here. No, two. Mitchell Turner, I talked about. Just want to give this credit again. This is a huge commitment for the entire Ole Miss program. He's a top 50 guy by some people, 24/7, whoever you want to go. But bottom line, these are the kinds of kids Ole Miss usually misses out on. A lot of the D linemen lead the state historically. Maybe the best player in the state of Mississippi this year. He is really, really good. Hawaii gets a commitment. Davion Whitner at a Desert Mountain in Arizona, 6'3", 220-pound edge. Washington State gets Rayshawn Wabati. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Curtis Sr., Tacoma, Washington, 6'6", 265. He is a part of the Washington State program now. San Diego State, Trevon Garrison at a Damien, just outside of L.A. in Laverne, California, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Will go to San Diego State. Alabama picks up Stafford Willis, the kid I mentioned in earlier segment, 6'5", 280, Arab, Alabama, their first offensive line commitment. And South Carolina also picks up Avion Lewis, really good player, out of Huguenot High School in Richmond, Virginia, 6'2", 185 pounds. He's one of the better receivers on the East Coast. When we come back, we're going to jump into the chat, answer a few questions, and then we're going to get into the Georgia schedule. In some ways, I think it's one of the most important things to really talk about, because if you really look at trying to win a national championship, and Georgia's got a great roster, you need a little luck. When your injuries happen, when you're bye, all those different things, it's really, really important. That is next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is with business. Look at it this way. If you're trying to build a great recruiting team, they got to recruit the same kind of guys that make it work. They got to have the right basic platform for what they want to do in football. Well, it could be that way if you're a company that's a marketing firm, if you're somebody that's going to do pavement and do driveways. If you don't have the right plan on how you want to distribute it with the right people, it's not going to work. Well, you also need the systems for all of them to make it work, so they're not stuck dealing with accounting in all the minutia of the office work. Your people need to do what they're supposed to do, and that's where Odoo comes in. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free at odoo.com/locked on. That's odoo.com/locked on. All right, let's jump into the chat here. How is everybody doing in the chat? Let's see. Salty, how you doing, brother? How do you see Alexander's career progressing at Notre Dame, and what should his ceiling be? That's a great question. Sagan's a guy that reclassed. He's from Canada, plays at Raven Gap. It's a boarding school in the upper northeast corner of the state of Georgia. It's close to the North Carolina, Tennessee area. I don't know exactly, but he can bend the edge. I think he's a guy that's going to end up being a D tackle primarily, but if you're going to run multiple fronts, which most teams do now, he could be a 4-eye, he could be a 3-tack, and he could occasionally be a 5-tack in a 4-man line. Like, you can move him around. Those are important factors. Anytime you have defensive linemen that are versatile, that can be pass rushers, offense coordinators hate that because they want to know where your best player is going to be so they can attack it. He's a guy you can run stunts and stuff with, just like anybody, but he's a guy I think can line up in different places. So it's going to be up to him to learn the playbook, and if he does, he could be as good as he wants to be. Alexander is talented but raw. For a skilled developer of linemen, when you're reloading every year, would you prefer such recruits so that you develop them and they don't already have bad habits? Every kid is different on this. This is a great question. I want them as developed as possible because for the most part, coaches will tell you this. I'm sure there's somebody that'll disagree, but when I speak with coaches about, hey, what do you want to see and this and that, the basic bottom line thing is do what you're told, use technique. It's super boring, but technique is a very broad term in today's world. Pass rush moves, how often do you use the same one? How often do you use it against a guy that's skilled? How often do you use it against a guy that is versatile? Like, knowing when to apply stuff is really a part of it. So there's a lot to it. I don't know how quickly you expect somebody like Alexander to be able to do that, but if you just bring in really talented guys, part of it's just effort on defense in particular, running down a running back, running down a reverse, running down a receiver after he hit on a screen pass, but he's zigging and zagging, coming from behind, knocking the ball. It's just effort and physical skill, so that's part of it too. Position coaches both recruit and develop. Is the development side rising in importance? As recruiting talented but raw individuals they can develop may mean less NIL at the outset. Yes. This is something like Iowa. Nobody develops better over the last 25 years than Iowa. Look at them for the barometer. Hats off to everybody that's been on that staff, for Kirk and his crew. Like, not just done a good job. Like, the DBs, like, at one point they had more DBs in the NFL than Saban did from Bama. Like, it's insane. So I think development is going to be more important, and I might as well bring this up before I had all my stuff done. I probably should have put this in. I'll do it more tomorrow, but we'll make it a focus. 5 for 5 has been officially passed. For those of you who have not seen, What does that mean? You get 5 years to play 5, you're out. You don't redshirt or anything else. You get 5 years to play 5. No worrying about how many games you play and all this other crap. This year it starts 5 for 5. And I'm sure some guys will petition to get an extra year after this year and all that stuff. But that's going to be interesting, to say the least. Salty, has Bama mistakenly decided to model its recruiting efforts after those of Florida State? No, they have not. I know Smart is stingy, but it isn't his money, and personally, he makes more money the further Georgia goes in the playoffs. Why is he stubbornly averse to joining the big-time NIL recruiters? Let me correct you and just got to slide this. It's not that he's afraid to spend money. It's because he's afraid to spend money up front and to kind of like disjoint, potentially at least, the locker room. Or at least that's what I'm told. I don't know Kirby. It's not like he's going to share that with me anyway, but this is a common thing. A lot of schools. Notre Dame was that way. Clemson's been that way. But if you're going to recruit, especially if you want to recruit big-time D linemen, you got to spend money. Probably more than you want. It's touchy. If you go look, I don't care which network you use, 24/7. Go look at the top 50 kids in the state of Georgia for this year. You're not going to see the Dawgs very much. They're not trying to spend enough, and a lot of kids are leaving. It's very, very interesting. Salty, if Smart worries that engaging in upfront NIL will have negative ramifications in the locker room, why not make adjustments to the locker room at the same time? It's a merit system, at least, again, from what I'm told. I don't think he wants to give anybody a penny more than they're supposed to get. He's got more of an old school military personality, and it's been so successful, it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle in terms of, okay, I've got 2 rings doing this. But the times are changing. His buddy down the road, Dabo, they're like 2 hours apart. It's pretty much the same deal. It's probably not even 2 hours. And it's, what was it? Dabo crew, I believe they signed 10 guys out of the portal this year. Do you really think Dabo wanted to do that? Probably not. But here we are. Adapt or die. So we'll see what Kirby does. And I'm not sure how they'll attack it next year, but I have a feeling they'll adjust their recruiting and their portal a little bit. It's ironic that Bama and Georgia thrived using relatively small-time, under-the-table payouts, but once NIL came to be, they now find themselves on the sharp end of the spear. Really true. Like, I know, like, fans of school, oh, we don't cheat, we never cheated. The big-time SEC schools bought kids forever. Forever. Kirby was recently on, what is it, the round table or something like that? I forget what it's called. It's based out in the state of Alabama. The guy was poking him about that quite a bit, and Kirby didn't push back on it at all. But he said, you know, the SEC schools, if you lost one in an SEC school and they paid whatever, you didn't let the teams from up north come down and get them. But now with all this NIL, how do you handle it? It went into a whole other conversation. And it's different because guys that are sitting on the bench are making more than the elite 5-star D tackles were from 5-6 years ago. Literally. So it's a totally different deal. And I think Kirby and some schools are trying to figure it out. And it's just every day is different. The rules of engagement change by the day. If Smart is worried that switching to upfront NIL payments will disrupt his locker room, I know such things have happened, Florida State, but how many examples do you know are out there? I don't know how many total. Florida State was such a flop, it's easy to point to that. That's the obvious one. But there are others, and there are other concerns. I mean, I kind of wonder about Auburn over the last couple of years because they spent a bunch of money. How much result did Auburn get? Really? You know, look at A&M. Look at the money they spent when Jimbo was there. Probably not what they were expecting. USC, they've been good, and they've spent a bunch of money. But how many of those kids were really tough and were really there when the chips were down? And how many of those kids they brought in for a year, spent that money and kept that money? They were gone afterwards because they didn't get what they thought. Paying up front is a big risk. I don't know how you fix it, but that is a conversation that is one that needs to be examined all the time. Andre, how you doing, sir? For all those years that the SEC rooting at such a high level and stacking classes after class, I think all of that time has come back down to earth. Schools are now getting elite classes or good ones. It's true. Here's the other thing that kind of extends for what Andre's saying here. It's about retention. There is no model for this, and it's a boring subject, but it's the new important one. Which teams are keeping players in their classes that they wanted to keep. It's very subjective. You can't really do it from a numeric standpoint, but I hear about this all the time. Teams are hoping certain guys leave because they don't want to put in the effort. They don't want to have to cut them, but they're like, look, you can stay, but we're cutting your NIL by 80% to try to get them to leave. It's just true. So there's that. And then on the other side of it, you just have teams that have more NIL than other teams. They can outbid teams. That happens too. What's going on, Mr. Leon? Hope all is well, sir. It's amazing they don't have any offensive line. For what I heard, they pissed some of the people off. The coaches in Alabama, Auburn, it's out recruiting them. Yeah, Alabama is having a smaller class. Auburn is not, obviously, and they're spending some money. But I don't know what the plan is with Alabama because you never want to have unbalanced classes. It's very odd. It's kind of hard to follow. Salty, good night. You're not going anywhere, are you? Leon, Auburn, NIL, it's paying off out of paying players. To get their commitment, it's no gain. If to last, they can win. I don't know how much longer Auburn's going to pay like this. They've overpaid for some guys. They need to show proof of concept on the field this year, or it's not going to work out. Salty, Auburn's recruiting picks up every time it receives a cash dump. Yeah, no doubt about it. Leon, Brian, what do you think of Casey Barner, the safety in the 28 class? Thumper, very instinctive. He's a young man out of McEachern, up there in the northwest side of Atlanta. He's a national recruit. We've known about him for a long time. Big-time player. Virginia, what is the next FWC game you plan to attend? That's the Leon. Good question. Something I'm flying to Miami in the morning to watch my country, Brazil, versus Scotland tomorrow. Is Scotland any good at soccer? I have no idea. I know Brazil is, but is Scotland any good? July 4th is going to be a big day for commitments. Do these people understand that they are ending their independence on a day that celebrates independence? That's hilarious. July 1st sounds like the big day now. Leon, Tech and Texas A&M would be the first $100 million teams. That's my guess as well. Swanton, Salty, but if they were to commit to Notre Dame, they'd be practicing independence. Well done. Touche. Why did Florida and Miami back off Alexander and Jamar Thompson? I wondered the same thing. Florida, I think, got a couple other guys to commit first. It could be NIL. Don't know. Might be a length thing. It might be personality thing. Maybe a fit. I was kind of surprised. I thought that Jamar would for sure end up at Miami after meeting him a couple years ago. But that's why the recruiting process plays itself out. We'll see how it goes and where they eventually sign. But, yeah, it's been a wild year down south in South Florida. Salty, I believe escalating NIL is heading towards some kind of ceiling, formally or informally, that originates with the boosters. They will get tired of ever-increasing demands on their wallets. Very true. Let's see. Leon, Brian, when are you going to make the state of Florida teams recruiting? I'm actually doing something on that tomorrow. We're doing a crossover, all of us. So I'm going to do it there as a big show. I don't know how that's going to go, but I do know that Spencer from Locked On College Football is going to host it. And then all of us from our shows are going to talk about it. Salty, the only recruits that should commit on independent days are those committing to Notre Dame. Hilarious. Segun from Swanton. Yeah, he's really good. Hurricane, which P6 programs are recruiting the best? Should be Memphis because they got money. They got FedEx money. After that, I'm not sure. For whatever it's worth, they're calling it the Pac-12. San Diego State, Washington State, Oregon State. That's not P4 football. They're trying to claim it is, but it's not. Some of those probably, maybe Fresno State gets an influx of cash. After that, maybe Tulane. I really don't pay attention to it that much, but it's a good question. Swanton, that'd be pretty cool and pretty funny. SVP. I'd hate having it wait that long, though. Let's see. Salty Sagan Alexander went from Canada to Northern Georgia. Can you imagine a greater culture shock? He can speak French and redneck. Up there, it definitely has some. But there's some money up where he's at, too. That post referenced Swanton-Baum post that pointed out Independence Day would be a good day to commit to an independent, no conference membership school. Shoemaker flipped back to Ole Miss. Are you serious? I haven't checked it. This is hilarious. Are you serious? Like, what in the world is going on with all this stuff, man? I can't keep up with these kids. I mean, I really can't. He just did. That is wild. I have no idea what's going on, man. Yeah, the Shoemaker thing is one of the wilder ones, maybe the wildest that I've seen in a long time. Matter of fact, I'm going to retweet that right now on my own timeline. I mean, this is crazy. But anyway, thank you for the information. That's crazy. Let's see. Swanton. Schools will have to pony up and give bonuses to guys already in the locker room while simultaneously joining the big boy NIL game. Only way to do it semi-smoothly. Yeah, if you just pay a bunch of guys that haven't been on the roster yet, but yet the players in the locker room that have sweated for you don't get similar. I have a feeling that's what happened to Florida State in 2024, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. How high are you on Notre Dame's D-line now that Sagan is on board? Best in the nation. If they get Parks, this class alone could take Notre Dame to a title. I need to see what happens with Parks before I say for sure, but it's really good. A&M better hope Caden Henderson doesn't make a visit in the fall because the D-line class who wouldn't want to play behind it? Add the 26 D-line class just as nasty. It's pretty good. It really is. How many Notre Dame commits are in your top 100 or are 5 stars for you? I don't know off the top of my head. They should end up with just over 10 when all is said and done. 2 to 4 5 stars. I think personally that Sagan is a 5-star. When I do my new rank, I haven't updated everything yet, but he reclassed. They'll like at least be 9 or 10 top 100 recruits. Leon, what time would the show? Oh, if you're talking about the Florida State one, we're going to record it tomorrow night. I assume it's going to go out on Thursday morning. It'll be on all the channels. Donna will have it. Everybody will have it. But yeah, it'll be all of them. And what is the Shoemaker backstory? Shoemaker's from Choctaw County in Mississippi, committed early to Ole Miss. Big time player. He shut down his recruitment. Then less than 24 hours later, flipped to Colorado. And a few hours later, he just reflipped to Ole Miss. I have no idea what's going on there, but that's wild. To that end, welcome to recruiting in 2026. Let's talk a little bit about the Georgia schedule. This is wild. As promised, here we go. They have 7 games to start the season right out the gate. The first 2 are Cape walks. Tennessee State and Western Kentucky win and win. They go to Arkansas, the worst program in the SEC. That is game 3 on the road in Fayetteville. First big game. Last year's playoff team, Oklahoma, will play the Georgia Bulldogs in Athens, September 26th. One of the biggest games on the slate for both those teams and in college football for this season. October 3rd, Vanderbilt. That will be kind of wild if you know the backstory with the quarterback they recruited. Talk about decommitting. He decommitted from Georgia twice. We'll get into that another day, but Vanderbilt shouldn't be that great this year. They should win that. But then the big one, October 10th, Alabama hosts the Georgia Bulldogs. And then right after, the 7th game in a row, Auburn will go to Athens to play the Dogs. So a couple of points here. To start the season, it's never ideal to have 7 consecutive games. Number 2, you have 2 possible playoff opponents, and one of those is on the road in Bama. The other is Oklahoma. Like the first 7, that's not egregious, but that's not ideal. However, the first 3 cakewalk games are a blessing. I mean, it's almost impossible for Georgia not to start 3-0, I would think. We'll see how that goes. Second stanza of the schedule begins with the bye. I always begin these with the bye on the second page. That is October 24th. And then on the 31st, in Atlanta, I believe it is this year. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. The Gators will play the Dawgs in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that game is usually in Jacksonville, Florida, for those who don't know. It will be played in Atlanta, I believe, this year. If I'm wrong, again, please somebody correct me. That is on October 31st. By the way, that is Nick Saban's birthday. November 7th, they go to Ole Miss. So you get a bye, but then you play Florida neutral and then at Ole Miss. Then you come home, but you play a very physical, and a team has nothing to lose, in Missouri. What's their running back situation going to be by then? I'm not going to get into all that too much, but if a certain young man is back from his gunshot wound, that will definitely change the outcome of that game in some way, shape, or form. November 21st represents the last game of the season that they play on the road. The Tide travels to Columbia, South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. Maybe that's Shane Beamer's last game as a coach that's going to be there. Who knows? I have no idea what's going to happen in that program. They got so much going on there. And then finally, of course, the Iron Bowl on November 28th. 3 more points. Great timing with the bye as the Gators and the Rebels are coming up. It's a little late, but at least you got 2 big games coming up, so that's good. Do not discount Missouri. Physical, team that plays with a chip on the shoulder because they don't get the recognition they deserve. I'm telling you, do not screw around with Missouri. If they get any quarterback play this year, you know they're going to be good on defense. Their coaching staff does a great job on that side of the ball, and they can run the ball. If you turn it over, screw around, you can lose. And, of course, the Iron Bowl, it's a big game. But there are more question marks than usual. You got new quarterback at both schools. We don't even know for sure who the quarterback will be at Alabama. Will either of them be in the playoff hunt? I doubt Auburn is. I don't think they have that kind of ability this year. And their schedule is crazy. But they've always played Alabama tough. Who knows? The Iron Bowl has a lot of question marks. We'll kind of see where that goes. Jumping back here in the chat again, see what's going on. Leon, thank you, Brian. Scotland, it's okay. Not big as England. I was going to say Scotland, probably not a program that's going to have the ability to build a great roster in soccer. It's just not a big enough country, so I kind of had a feeling you were going to say that. Shoemaker must have quite the personality and morals. LOL, says Swanton. Hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but that is very odd. Chris Cobb, 10-2 for A&M, going to be a good year in Aggie land. I have to go through and do Texas A&M schedule. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Nick Saban on Halloween. That's right, October 31st. We talking about Bama Jones? Auburn 2 times this year? What are you talking about, Auburn 2 times? I'm not sure what you're referring to. That's from Phantom Golf. Neither one of those teams, I think, is going to the SEC title game. I could be wrong, but that'd be the only way they could play twice. Scotland fans are impressive. They drank all of the beer in Boston. That's insane. Gosh. Who is getting fired first, Norvell or the coach from South Carolina? I'm going with Norvell, but it could be. It could be. So thank you to everybody that checked out the Portal Podcast again tonight. Another fun show. Maybe I'll do A&M schedule tomorrow. We'll have some fun with that. And again, for those of you that come in every day, if you've got questions for me or any suggestions, you can always drop them in the chat any night. We'll have some fun with it. But tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, we have shows going up randomly. I'm doing crossovers. I got Ohio State. I've got an SEC crossover. Got all kinds of different stuff going on. So make sure you check out everything going on with the Portal Podcast. Like and subscribe. Share this podcast with a friend. Truly appreciate it. This has been the Portal Podcast.